Word before we get started. I'm not a doctor, therapist, or mental health professional. I'm just sharing my story and the lessons I've learned along the way. If you're struggling, please reach out to a professional or someone you trust. You don't have to carry the weight alone.
Hey, welcome back to the Mental Pit Stop. So I'm going to be real. I feel like I let you guys down last time I think last episode 4 was only like 15 minutes. So this one's going to be probably longer. I've really taken the time to write out a full script to kind of make it longer and, make sure people are entertained and inspired throughout the entire episode. So episode 5 is what I call Racing on Empty. The other thing I'm doing is I'm actually breaking the episodes down to 3 parts. So this episode so basically you can either jump to a specific part so I can add some chapters, but part 1 is called When the Tank's Dry, part 2, Reading the Signs, and part 3, Refueling the Tank. So let's get started. Part 1, When the Tank's Dry. So many of you know I obviously work full-time, but I also do weddings, mostly 3 days a week. Last night, I got home from work probably around 11:30 maybe. I thought there's one particular guy I know was streaming, and often races are really good. There's a bunch of people in the A+ lobby that are in the chat while the stream is ongoing. So I pop in. I'm like, I'll just do a few races. It was good to be out there with and gain more experience with these top, fast, more experienced guys. But I realized I had no pace. I did a little bit of a warm up. I had streamed earlier in the day, so it's not like I didn't race, and I was doing race B, one of my favorite tracks. But when I noticed I had no pace, I realized I was mentally and physically exhausted. Had I been smart, I would have cracked open a book that a friend recently gave me on Discord, got some rest, but no, I went to bed at 2 a.m. Then I woke up at 7, hit the toilet, went back to sleep, and didn't wake up until 10. And I never wake up at 10. Like, I'm always up anywheres between 5:30 and 7:30, even on the weekends. That's when it hit me. I was pushing myself too hard. I was running on empty. I think sometimes the game can think we are wide awake, whether it's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., but it's not the case, right? I think we all know that. And that's where a lot of us are sometimes. We keep pushing, same routine, same load, same grind until we hit that invisible wall. It doesn't always show up as a meltdown. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's slow, unfocused, disconnected. Now, take that little thing of me, probably not too smart, coming home from work. It's already late. And then jumping on the game, having that adrenaline, staying up until 2 a.m. Pretty minor, right? But let's scale that up, because sometimes it's not just a game. Sometimes it's life critical. So in kind of analogy that I wrote in life and through some of my experiences, you ever notice in some of those old World War II movies, unfortunately, it's the point man that always is the one that gets hit first? That's not necessarily the movie drama. That's actually how it works. The one up front carries the risk, the pressure, the weight of being the point man. And I've learned this lesson before, not on the racetrack, but in Afghanistan. We'd be out on patrol, the heat, extremely long grinding days, the tension, the mental fatigue and the physical exhaustion never seem to end. And this is why everyone, for the most part, takes turns being the point man. You know, the point soldier carries a different kind of weight. It's not just the physical, it's the mental strain of being first, eye scanning, like everywhere, every sound, every possibility of someone coming out or someone stepping on an IED. Like, your responsibility when you're at the front is the entire team. The thing is, if you do that too long, your brain starts to cook. You start to miss things. You get sloppy, not because you don't care, but just because you're human. So what we would do is we would rotate around, take turns, and you would literally take a guy off point, put him to the middle or towards the back of the team, and you could literally see the relief on them as they would be taken off point. Not necessarily because like the person up front wasn't strong enough, but because staying there too long meant you'd eventually break. You start to miss too many things. You can't stay on point forever. Now, at my rank, I was often not on point. I was usually the last man, the second in command. One time we had been in what we would call a TIC, troops in contact, and we had fought for most part of the day, and we decided that we would withdraw, break contact, and call in a fire mission. The captain I was working with led off with the team. There was just 6 of us in our team. I waited just a short few seconds, scan our position, make sure nothing was left behind. As I started to move back, I noticed that my feet, little puffs of sand, started jumping around, and I started lifting my knees, running like crazy. Pretty funny now to think about it. Like that back then it wasn't. The difference there is, as soldiers, our brothers and sisters rely on us in that situation. In life, it's our family, it's our kids, it's our co-workers who rely on us. Different mission, but surely the same mental weight. And it makes me think, most sim racers, for the most part, I would think, would dream of being real race car drivers. Would you agree? But often I wonder, and I see people that stream like, what's the Daisy, Call of Duty, Battlefield 6. And I've often wondered, like, those people that play those type of games, like, do you think, oh, I could do this for real? I would hope not, but it's always something that different video games I've compared to Gran Turismo, whereas, you know, that simulation, you know, puts you in a world of being a race car driver, right? So part 2, reading the signs. The other day, funny to laugh about it now, I poured my coffee, added my creamer, went back to the fridge, and without even noticing, it wasn't the coffee creamer I had in my hand. I was about to put my entire coffee pot back in the fridge. And that was a little sign for me that my mental fatigue, it wasn't that I had just woken up and I was in a daze. I was just at the point of knowing the things I needed to get done that day. My focus was somewhere else. My bandwidth was literally at 0. It's funny, in racing, we know exactly when our performance starts to drop off, but I think in life, we tend to ignore it until it's too late, I think, a lot of times. It reminds me of a couple YouTube videos I've seen recently, more recently, one from Kizzy just the other day. And I know Coach Luke has done videos on tire wear and how to preserve your tires a little bit more, about knowing when to push too hard and you're braking too late, you're wearing down your tires, right? It's those little details that tell you a lot, that you're wearing your tires too fast. When you're not on pace, it's not always because you're slow. Sometimes it's because it's the car or it's you. You're just mentally worn down. We all know that when you're driving, as you watch the tire wear indicator go down and start to get more red, you can feel the tires start going, and you have less grip. The grip fades each lap, corner after corner. It's a little subtle at first. You're like, okay, next corner, I need to brake a little bit earlier. I don't have as much grip. But sometimes you keep pushing, even though you're aware of that. But every lap gets uglier and uglier. Eventually, sometimes, depending on your level and whatnot, you could crash. You're fighting the car instead of flowing with it, right? Some people talk about the flow state in racing, and I know people have done videos on it. That perfect rhythm where everything just clicks. I've been there a few times, and it's like you don't even know where your breaking points are, but it's just you're in that state where your rhythm and your muscle memory is just on point. Well, I can tell you the few times I have been there, I can promise you I was never in a flow state when I was mentally or physically exhausted. And Coach Luke and I have talked about this before. I've messaged him on Discord and say, oh my God, like, why this week I'm just like, I'm not there. And he would be like, oh, didn't you tell me you're like dealing with this or this is going on, or you didn't sleep well, you had nightmares? And it's those things that realize, right, it's not just about the racing and the tools that you have. It's the impact of the mental and physical exhaustion. Flow only shows up when your body and mind are both in sync, when you've got something left in the tank, basically. So if you've been fighting the car lately, maybe it's not the setup, maybe it's the driver who needs the reset. I hope that can resonate with some of you as we move forward to part 3, refueling the tank. So here's the thing, like, once you realize you're running on empty, what do you actually do? I know a lot of us don't recognize it, and we just keep pushing. And often for me, when I know and I'm pushing too hard, my first sign is I start to get a cough. You start to get the sniffles. I start to not feel my best. You just can't keep pushing. It's more about strategy, and keep pushing and knowing those signs. That's a slow destruction. Every engine, every driver, every human needs a pit stop. On track, the pit stop might just be, a few seconds to get new tires, fuel, swap drivers if it's an endurance race. Unfortunately, I don't think you can do that in Gran Turismo. It's a shame you can't, but that would be super cool. In life, those pit stops are not that quick. Sometimes it's a full night's rest. Sometimes it's saying no when you've been saying yes to everything and everyone. I think we've all been there. Sometimes it's just 5 minutes to breathe, step outside, get some fresh air, go for a walk, which I will be doing this afternoon because it is absolutely beautiful here today. Sometimes it's remembering more things on your to-do list and saying, you know what, I'm only going to focus on this today, whatever it is. You see, in the race, the best drivers know when to come in, right? Push too long, worn tires, you have a chance to lose the race. And it's like, your pit crew, your race engineer can make the suggestion to say, hey, we're going to box. Sometimes the driver, no, tires are good, depending on that relationship, right? And that's where Lewis and Bono always had that good understanding and respect. However, if you come in too early, you give up track position. It's about knowing when the right stop is done and the right time. What is exactly your tool that's going to keep you in for the long haul, which we talked about in the previous episode. That's the art of balance, something I'm still learning every single day. I can tell you that. There was a time I actually thought rest was weakness back in the military. That kind of mindset was everywhere. If you're tired, push harder. You're trained to push the extreme of physical and mental abilities. And every person has that different level, right? If you're hurting, if you got blisters, your back is sore, you just suck it up and keep going. But that mentality doesn't win you peace. It just burns you out slower over time. As I said, in Afghanistan, we rotate that point man because everyone knew that what would happen if you didn't. Things are missed. The responsibility of the point man is to recognize those signs before something happens, and all the pressure is on the point man of the responsibility for the entire team. In life, we forget that rule. We try to stay on point all the time, at home, at work, online, scanning for threats, keeping everyone safe, holding everything together, right? But no one can do that forever, not without consequences. You can't pour from an empty tank. You can't steer a car with no grip. You can't be the point man every day of your life. So what does refueling look like for you? Maybe it's hitting the track for fun. Maybe it's doing some lobbies with friends, crashing into everyone, playing cops and robbers, something like that, just to let off some steam. Maybe it's putting your phone down for an hour. And that's one thing I've been much better at recently, not being on my phone before bed. Maybe it's just having a real conversation with someone you trust. No masks, no ego, just putting everything to the side. And I know in the military community, those friends are very hard to come by. I have one friend that I could share everything with, and that's really hard to find. For me, it's mornings like this, cup of coffee, track, get in some laps, and, just reflect, watch a few people stream and just kind of reset, get out for a walk. Because for me, that's when I can actually hear the quiet again, is just not grind hard and, race and time trial for hours on end, just quick few laps, kind of reset, but also at the same time, take time for myself to journal, have a plan for the day. That's for me when I find that's when the noise fades and I can just find some peace and clear my mind. I have a extremely stressful life, but I think it's important to know that I'm no different than many other. There's people out there that have things way worse than me. So for me, it's about gratitude and just being present. If you've been running on empty lately, maybe this is a reminder to pull in. Time for your pit stop. Time to remind a friend, like, are you doing okay? Refuel before you hit the next track, the next lap. Because the truth is, the goal isn't to never run low. It's to know when to stop, when to refuel, get back out there ready to go again. When you do that, you find something that's incredible. The flow comes back, the rhythm comes back. The other day, I realized when I was not on pace, I was trying to improve my quality time. And I literally was like, nope, I'm going to get a full night rest and I'm going to try. I can't remember what day it was, but I'm going to try again tomorrow. Fresh mind, rest. And I did it. It's at this time when the rhythm returns and you're rested physically, mentally, and suddenly you're not just driving anymore, you're racing again in life and on the track. So I've kind of written down 5 pit stop tips when refueling, when you're running on empty, and just a few things that I've come up with that I'm just starting to implement. And as I just bought a new journal the other day, putting these things to practice. And I'd love to hear in the comments of some ideas and things that have worked well for you that I can share with those that are listening. The one that I kind of said, read your gauges. When the tires start to fade, you can see it on the screen, right? It's right in front of you. You know that your tires are wearing thin, probably should box the next lap. And it's the same goes in life. If you're foggy, short-tempered, you start forgetting things. You start putting your coffee pot in the fridge That's your low fuel light. Those should all be signs. The next is when you recognize those signs. Number 2, schedule your pit stops. Make a plan. Rest shouldn't be a crash landing. Make time for breaks before you need them, right? Plan ahead. Don't, once you've crashed and you have damage, then you're pitting likely to DNF, depending on whether, F1, for example, even though today's race was boring. Maybe you need a new wing. Maybe you need a rear wing, whatever the damage is. But if you pit early, those things can be avoided. Number 3 is rotate your crew. You don't have to be the point man every day. Share the load at home, at work, your team. That's what keeps everyone moving forward. I just had to, at work, I had said, I'm working on this project, and my boss had asked me to do something else. And I said, is there any chance that so-and-so can do that? Because I'm at my limit. And he's like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot you were working on that as well. Number 4 is watch your tire wear. Back off before you spin out. Adjust your pace. Brake a little earlier. Let the car do your work and your mind. Breathe a little. Number 5, choose rest over more laps. And the other day, an extra wetting shift came up on the app that we use, and I thought, damn, I could really use the extra cash. I need snow tires. I need wood for the winter. At first, I thought about it for maybe 5 seconds, and then I was like, nope. I cannot work 4 weddings in the week plus work my Monday to Friday, because on the verge of probably an 80-hour week, and I'm going to regret it the next day and likely the next week. So I said, no, I need that time. I need that Friday night to rest. And I'm so glad I did. That's what planning ahead and thinking about the bigger picture, refueling life on and off the track. So just a few reflection questions for you. Where in life are you still pushing on worn tires? If you sat down right now and kind of made a list and said, this is at its limit, the gearbox is in not good condition, maybe your clutch is worn, your tires are worn, whatever the situation is related to life, where in life are you still pushing too hard? As we talked about in earlier episodes, who's in your pit crew? Who's part of your crew, and when was the last time you let them take the lead, right? When was the last time you came off point, let somebody else lead, and just took a deep breath? All that weight was taken off so you could take some time for yourself to reset, to take that pit stop. What would your next pit stop look like if you actually scheduled it? Schedule it ahead of time, not waited to take a pit stop when you crashed. You actually planned ahead. You planned your strategy, whether it was for the week or the month, or maybe it's more of a long-term, your 3 to 5 year plan. Before I close off here, I'm going to just say today's affirmation. I'm allowed to rest. Refueling isn't quitting. It's preparing for what's next. You're welcome to say it along with me the next time. I'm allowed to rest. Refueling isn't quitting. It's preparing for what's next. I just want to say in closing, I really appreciate everyone taking the time to spend with me in the mental pit stop today. I'd ask in the comments, be open, have the courage to kind of say where you're at. Maybe there's some stuff that I haven't mentioned that you feel could help other people, and I can add that into another episode. If this episode hit home, share it. I appreciate that. Like, comment, as I said. Remember, you're not alone in the garage. Next week, we will be rolling out episode 6, which I call Racing Without Mirrors. Sometimes it's about letting go of the past and learning to focus forward. I promise you will not want to miss this one. Until next time, stay safe, stay focused, and look after your pit crew. It's okay to say you're not okay.
Yeah. It's okay. life's a track, some nights it's heavy, some days it's light. We all spin out, still finding control through the fight. Some laps are long, some laps are slow, but every turn reminds you how much you've grown. You can lose some grip, you can lose your way, but it's okay to say you're not okay. The mental pit stop.